Oleg, design team lead, and I thought presentation is easy. You just need to start. This is me trying to present something, and this is my audience trying to understand the presentation and understand why they are even watching this. And I tried to ask the questions like, did you like my presentation? And they told that, yes, it was okay, but I felt okay, but something was wrong. And I thought practice is the key. I just need to present more things. But the more I present, the more bad presentation I created. So I understood that I need to teach some theory. And I found out that visuals and slides are very important, started from them, but actually realized that things are much more complex. Here is the schema, how I see presentation, the process of preparing a presentation right now. And this all starts from the left, from experience and ideas, then you measure usefulness, then you try to prepare structure, narrative, prepare slides, work with your voice, non-verbal language. Probably if it was an offline presentation, it would be more relevant. Right now, I am too tiny on your screen, and you don't even see the whole pose, but it is very important. Then you need to do repetition and work with audience, especially if they have the tough questions, and you need psychology of attention. So I tried to realize what is the most important thing with presentation, and the common problems that I found were like this. Your presentation is either boring, or if not boring, can be irrelevant for your audience, or if relevant, not convincing enough. And this is all about this style, structure and narrative. And this is the most important part of any presentation. And let's see how we can create this. The greatest inspiration for my research was Roman Poborci. He helps IT specialists to make better presentation. He is a part of Hilot, Team Lead Conf and Tech Lead Conf committee. So you probably have seen him if you were watching Russian conferences. And here are other names. I just need to give them credit. So how actually to make a good structured narrative? It's as simple as 4 questions. Who am I? Who is my audience? What I want to change, and what I want to tell. First is about speaker's role. Second, interesting topic. Then goal, and then some storytelling. And here is our plan for today, some framework. And the first 3 parts are relatively simple, and for storytelling, we dive deep into plot, hero, and moral. Let's start with speaker's role. Basically, you can have 4 basic roles as a speaker. Survivor is a role when you are you have experienced something and you try to deliver some ideas, your conclusions after this. You can give some pros and cons, tell a lot of stories. As an expert, it can be much more harder because you can be an expert for your audience as a teacher in school, but you can't actually be an expert for random viewers. You need to understand who is viewing you, and for some reason you can't take this role. But you can just give plain facts in this role. As a preacher, you have realized something very new and cool, but others didn't. And you can deliver new knowledge to them. For example, you can prove by your presentation, you can prove why they need to drop React and use something better. And as a cross coach, you deliver knowledge from one area to another. For example, as a football player, you can teach someone what football can teach us to in music to play drums, or as a programmer, you can tell what music have teach you as a musician, and what tips you can actually what patterns you can use while coding. And okay, you can combine all your roles, but choose one dominating and understand its limitations. The second is interesting topic. It is very simple. You just need to understand what you want to tell and what they want to hear. Yes, you can tell things like you like but they don't like, or things like they want to hear but you don't want. But it's always better when everything you say is on this sweet spot. And that helps you to take an attention and so it's much easier to take audience's attention. So the topic, in short words, should be relevant, actual, and useful for a specific audience. Then goal. You have 3 goals as a speaker. First is to teach. And the problem with this goal is you need a lot of time to teach someone something. For example, it can be very cool when you are making a lecture or an online course, but you have no time to teach someone on small conference. And what you should do is to inspire. It's always, you have enough time to inspire, and this should actually cause your audience to teach something later. And you can also entertain your audience. It is more suitable for comedians, but you can use it and combine it with other roles. So yes, you can combine, but one of them should be dominating. And let's speak about storytelling. What it is. It is when you have the simple story is not a storytelling. You need to have a specific goal in mind when you're telling something. And in storytelling, you have 2 things to buffer: motivation and opposition. And you need to prepare arguments for your viewers to motivate or to deal with their opposition. And this is very common for a lot of speakers to only motivate and forget about opposition. For example, one guy prepared a fun presentation about Greek yogurt. He described the cool things about yogurt and why you need to eat it. And then after he asked the audience about what they liked, and they said that they really don't like Greek yogurt. So he forgot about the very significant opposing fact, and the whole presentation was not relevant for them. So he could add something like the yogurts can be in different tastes, and you can choose your taste, and you can add something to yogurt to make it tastier. And then arguments. They can start with the simple data. When presenting about yogurt, you can just show nutrition facts and make an essence within these facts. But actually, the data often is not enough to prove something. And the data is hard to concentrate, and probably it can be boring. But the very significant problem with data that there are a lot of better ways to deliver your arguments. For example, personal experience. Personal experience can be very important for your audience. Let's see here as an example, a guy that is driving without seatbelts, and once he made it into an accident, and he found out that he's on the second row and third row is totally crushed. So driving without seatbelt saved him alive. And this is very important fact for this person. And you can't just say the seatbelts are cool, and this would be not relevant for this guy. And the next thing is a story. Story. Imagine that you have that this man without seatbelt is your close friend, and he said what happens with him, and this is very convincing story for you. And you actually, this can be not only convincing to you. You can tell this story to someone, and then it can be very widespread. But don't forget about opposition. For example, here is another story. Mike hates seatbelts and never use it on the second row. And here is Mike, and here is Mike's wife. Probably this story would be very convincing for Mike, and probably it would be very convincing for his friends. So presentation is a set of arguments. You need to mix data, stories, and personal experience for your audience, and make as much arguments as necessary. Then plot. In general, it determines your story. And let's take the example, like the central plot by Robert McKee. It starts from an incident, then progresses, then crisis, climax, and resolution. But the structure is not very important. What is important for you is an emotional swing. You need to create calm and exciting moments for your audience to grab their attention. Here is an example. The first line is just a fact. Developer made 3 tests. And the second line is a story. During this story, you see the excitement when first task happens, then it is like a routine and 2 more tasks and the crisis, and at the end, this all is done. One more important thing is that it depends on your role. As a survivor, you can pull out a lot of stories, but as an expert, your vocabulary can be limited. And more you tell stories, the less you are an expert. And that's a very interesting thing. In addition to stories, Gustav Jung created the archetypes concept when he made his collective unconscious research. And this is simply a thing that brings some feelings and make you feel in a certain way about an object or situation. And the situation is interesting because it is a plot, and plot can be an archetype. And Christopher Booker described 7 very popular plots that can be used to tell a story. And I don't even need to explain each of the plots, but let's take an example of voyage and return. It's not very obvious, but let's see the structure. Any force requires a hero to leave his home, then he struggles, and then he finally comes home changed. And this is, for example, the whole Star Wars saga built on this plot. But it can be told by a single picture. Here is an ad by Ford, and you can see the starting moment when Guy started driving and the end point where he is. And the simple message is not listen to voice messages while driving. So set your plot. You can mix plots, but remember, simple story needs simple plot. And then hero. In general, it is an example that makes viewer to feel empathy. Remember that this developer, we can add a character here, Jane, and we can add some emotions, and you can feel this story better. You can put yourself on the place of a Jane and imagine this stress. But your heroes can be both real and fictional. For example, your colleagues, clients, friends, or a complete fiction, like a thought experiment with Mike that crashed his wife in a car accident. And better hero need to struggle. That's very important because you don't really feel empathy to a hero who is not struggling. And struggling here is powerful, and not struggling is weak. Also, hero can be combined with anti-hero. It's just like the complete opposite of a hero, bad, disorganized, immoral, misfit, and you can add it to the story. This Jason team lead and what he have done with her, and actually this helps you to feel better for Jane. The empathy increases. So hero in the story is very natural, and struggling here make your story deeper and closer to viewer. But archetypes, they can relate to object as well. For example, here is the circle of archetypes depending on two factors. Vertical is if the character wants to change the world or to keep it. And horizontal is to be individual or belong something. And here is a circle with 12 characters that are well used in marketing. And a lot of brands try to associate themselves with these archetypical characters to deliver better messages. You can read about them, but let's take an example with a magician. The main features is that he knows how the world works, make dreams into reality, and creates magic moments. And you can actually feel these moments when this character comes. It is very popular in movies, literature, and also in branding. All these brands create this aura of magic, and you feel that they help and can make something magic in your life. So an archetypical hero improves speed and accuracy of emotions in your story. And things can be much more complex. Here's the periodic table of storytelling. This relates to movies or series, and there are a lot of different archetypes and tropes they use. But one is very interesting for us right now. It's an Aesop. It's a plot where at the end of the story, you always see the moral. And here is our moral. Conclusions are not obvious. For example, you all know these quizzes when you need to define the object with a number and take an answer. And probably I was not speaking very quick, and probably it could be solved if you were not listening me. But did you solve it right now? Do you know the numbers? The important thing here is that a lot of conclusions are hard to do when you are a viewer and you see all this presentation as a show and you don't think too much. So you can process these things very quick. So as a presenter, you need conclusions in your stories, and not just for a single story, but the whole presentation requires conclusion. And here is our conclusion. You can't do a good presentation without understanding your audience, role, and goals. And you need storytelling for arguments. So what to do? You need to combine data stories and viewers' experience. You need to create a plot, both for story or probably for presentation. My presentation as a presentation didn't have a plot, but a lot of stories had it. And you can put a hero and make it struggle as much as possible. And you can use archetypes for both plot and hero. And don't forget to add a moral. So that's end for today. Thank you.